I was in a relationship for 7 years, and when it ended, something surprising happened. I did not leave broken, I did not leave angry, I did not leave carrying baggage or trauma or stories about how badly I had been wronged. I did not spend months or days replaying conversations in my head or even wondering if something could have worked out, if only things had been, different, this could have happened. It just felt final. It felt complete. It felt like a chapter had just reached its natural end. And for some time, I used to wonder, like, why am I feeling like this? And I thought maybe I had grieved while in the relationship. Maybe I had already gotten into terms with mourned the relationship, right? But later on, I asked myself, like, why could I walk away without resentment, without the urge to prove that I was the one who had been wronged, or needing to be seen as the winner or the loser of the situation? And the answer was very, very simple. What I realized was, when I was in the relationship, while still in it, I stopped pretending. I finally just stopped pretending. I stopped pretending that I was the perfect prize who had simply been mishandled. I also stopped pretending that I was the victim. I made peace with the idea and the truth that I was a perfect participant, a ready and willing, active participant of that situation. I was not a victim. I was not a martyr. I was a participant, right? And the truth is, the relationship did not technically fail, right? The thing about it was misaligned from the beginning. I entered it from a place of scarcity, from a place of lack, from a place where parts of me were still searching for validation and reassurance and completion. I was hoping that another person, like most of us do, was going to fill spaces inside of me that I didn't know how to feel for myself, that I had no tools to feel for myself. And so I stayed for 7 years. 7 years. Not because everything was wonderful, not because there was something extraordinary keeping me there for 7 years. I stayed because I was still wrestling with my own shadows. I was still projecting my needs, my fears, my emptiness. I was projecting them outward and hoping that someone else would resolve them for me. And so when I finally came to terms with all that and I finally left, it was not an act of punishment. It was not a strategy to make them realize my worth. It was not this dramatic exit to make them regret losing me. By the way, when I left, I think it took him a good 2 months to realize that I've actually left, because I just up and left. It was not dramatic because it was not about them. It was not about hurting them. Leaving was simply the moment I returned to myself. I started walking back to myself. And I realized that waiting for someone else to change so they could become what I needed, it had been the misunderstanding the whole time. That was the error the whole time. The real work was never about fixing them so that they can be what I need. The real work was about facing myself. And once I truly did that I actually started healing. It's when I started actually to grow and to evolve, and something magical just happens because you no longer look back hoping that things will work. Because the reason why I didn't look back, the reason why I didn't hope that things would change was because I realized that healing does not bring two misaligned people back together. Healing simply makes that misalignment very, very clear. And so when I left, I remember people telling me, oh, you know what? One day he'll realize what he lost. And that didn't land for me. It just didn't do what it was supposed to do for me, because that was never the point. I'd gotten to a point where it was never about being the prize. It was never about being the one who got away. It was about being the one who finally looked inward. And I did not go around telling people how I had been wronged. I did not build a story about betrayal or injustice. By the time I left, I had already understood something very important, is that we were both, me and him, were both projecting lack on lack on lack. And it was this endless void. So there was no victim. Neither of us was a victim. Just two people who had entered something from places within themselves that were still needing healing. And so my accountability in this situation was not about taking blame or giving blame or assigning blame for actions done or not done. My accountability was about recognizing my own self-betrayal, the ways I had stayed in misalignment, the ways I had ignored my own inner truth, the ways I had hoped that someone else was going to fix what was mine to fix to begin with. And most interestingly, that's when my healing began. And it did not just start healing from that outsourcing validation. It triggered a whole fleet of, areas that I needed to heal in. And today, when I look back at those 7 years, I do not feel regret. I feel so much gratitude, because 7 years with the wrong person taught me more about myself than any perfect relationship ever could. I did not lose 7 years like most people are telling me, oh my God, those are so many years. I did not lose 7 years in a relationship. I spent 7 years becoming someone who could finally leave. I consider myself lucky, actually, for the 7 years. Lucky that life gave me this one long mirror instead of sending me through 5 different relationships where I might have just repeated the same patterns again and again and again and end up not learning anything about myself. Because if I had simply labeled that person as the bad person and me as a victim, I would have walked away and changed and into another situation and done the same. So instead, those 7 years, they forced me to look inward. They forced me to grow. They forced me to meet myself. I am a dope human, by the way. That 7 years, they were worth everything. Those 7 years were worth everything.